Imagine for a moment that the more people that were to believe in something, the more true it became.
The story follows an FBI special agent named Cole Turner who has been fascinated by conspiracy theories since his youth. Instead of believing every theory, he simply analyzed the theories as well as the people that did believe them, and perhaps the people that influenced the theories as well, pondering their legitimacy and more or less just entertaining the notion of certain things so outlandish. Through the story, it's possible that he learns more truths than he can actually handle. The story begins with an opening scene shortly after the assassination of JFK. Lee Harvey Oswald is being taken in by the police for questioning on November 22nd of 1963. Shortly after he is taken in, two men in black suits come into the interrogation chamber, clearing the room of everyone else. The men shared dialogue that featured mad mumblings of a man that knew too much and was being framed, and nobody believed him. The men in black explained that they simply wanted to know what he knew. After some hesitation, Lee Harvey explained that what he knew was going to change the world, with lasting consequences beyond anything they had imagined. But he wasn't sure if he could trust his own memories, or if perhaps he was going mad. The men told him that they wanted him to say it directly so he knew it was the truth. Lee was silent for some time, but finally says, "Up is down, and down is up." After this, we experience a time jump and begin following Cole in the present day. He's at a flat earth conference when a man appears out of nowhere, who addresses him by name and offers him an opportunity, calling it one of those moments that can change everything. Cole reluctantly agrees and is brought into a small room with two billionaire brothers that served as oil company founders. They had been helping fund politicians for 2 decades, but that's not why Cole knew of them. Instead, he knew of them because they also had been funding extremist corners of the internet for years. It was them that had organized and funded the Flat Earth conferences and many others like it. Cole knew that the two men were helping to harbor and facilitate certain beliefs that could keep people divided, pliable, and agitated. Nevertheless, Cole felt a certain sense of excitement at the prospect of getting to the source of these wild theories. The brothers explained to Cole that they're seeking to recruit an intelligent believer and ask him bluntly if he specifically believes the Earth is flat. And even though he had never actually completely accepted it as factual, that's not what he replied with. Instead, he said yes, he believed. But he really just wanted to see where it went. Cole was taken to a small room with a number of wealthy men in suits and one single woman in a bright red dress and sunglasses. Her appearance was more bright and saturated than anything he'd ever seen, and it scared him, especially when she smiled at him. The lights in the room turned off and a projector began playing on a screen. As the film was about to begin, Cole noticed a potent, smug musk. Men in the room began to lean in towards the projector. Cole began feeling a certain anticipation that was almost palpable, as if the crowd was on the edge of orgasm. Being projected on the screen was footage of the moon landing, Neil Armstrong descending down the ladder from the rover, about to make the first small step for man. But it was different from the footage that had been displayed many years ago. It was from a different angle. As Neil was descending the ladder, something began to appear in the background. Then Cole recognized it. It was a man holding a small cardboard cup. He was not wearing any sort of space gear, just a normal dressed-up man. The room exploded with laughter, excitement, and applause. Everyone except for Cole, who immediately broke out in a nervous sweat with a huge pit in his stomach. The lights flipped on, and the two brothers began speaking to the room. They explained that the footage was from Stanley Kubrick's private collection, and that it had been stored privately in a government warehouse for decades. The two wicked men continued to explain their intentions to release it to the press, only in combination with an even bigger find that would be revealed in time. What had he just seen? Was it real? And if it was, what else was fake? He wasn't given time to ponder as one of the brothers approached Cole and asked him how far he really wanted to go down the rabbit hole. Cole asked him what he meant, and the brothers replied that they'd be taking a private plane, but their destination was a surprise.
Oof. All right. So this story is so good. We're 5 minutes in here, and I just want to commentate on the situation that the main character is in. I think I also would perhaps fabricate the information that these individuals were telling me just so I could kind of see a little bit further down the rabbit hole. But at this point right here, where the rich executives are coming and asking, just how far down do you want to go? I think at this point is really the point where you really got to begin asking yourself, okay, I just found out that the moon landings were officially fake. What other illusions of reality do I want to have shattered? This would be a lot to handle, but at the same time, I think the curiosity would probably get to me as well.
They explained that Cole's husband would be alerted by government agents that he is required for specific government tasks. Once again, his curiosity got the better of him, and he reluctantly agreed. He had gone too far. He may as well see where this path leads him, he thought. He was almost in shock, unable to believe and grasp at what he was seeing and experiencing, but he wanted to know more. The group of men boarded the private plane, where most of them began to drink and excitedly talk amongst themselves, but not Cole. He sat alone, thinking to himself. He was unsure of how long that flight was, and he lost track of time after the second stop to refuel the plane. It could have been days for all he knew. Feeling uneasy and sick, he finally fell asleep. However, a hand on his shoulder awoke him, as one of the brothers exclaimed that he needed to look out the window, and what he saw was unbelievable. A giant wall of ice was in front of him, and beyond that was space. It was what appeared to be the edge of the world, other planetary systems and space beyond it. His brain simply could not interpret or comprehend what he was seeing. It was then that Cole's nervous system went into overdrive as he leapt up, desperately seeking some way to understand what he was experiencing. It was then that he noticed again the bright red woman. For the first time she spoke, asking Cole directly, "Do you see it? It's important that you see." She then lowered her sunglasses to share what appeared to be two empty eye sockets with a large black patch covering each eye. It looked like a large black X over each eye. Cole yelled in horror and ran to the plane's bathroom. Almost immediately, he tore off his glasses in a frantic sweat and violently vomited. Just then, some men in the cabin explained to the passengers that they would be arriving at the base camp momentarily, where a helicopter would take them as high as they can get to the edge. Cole finally collected himself as the plane landed in the Antarctic environment. Cole and the rest of the passengers are given thick coats to remain warm in such cold weather. The passengers all excitedly make their way out of the plane. Cole was the final person to leave the plane and watch the two brothers lead the group of people towards a large building. Suddenly, a woman approaches the group of men with an automatic weapon. The brothers appear surprised and ask her if she's with Black Hat, to which she replies no and immediately shoots the crew in cold blood. Cole, who was far away from the rest of the people, saw the event and felt a mixture of fear and horror, thinking he was about to be next. In a moment of panic, he slips and falls on the hard, cold ground. But by this point, he had been through so much shock he was numb. The woman approached Cole, and for the second time he was addressed by name. "Cole Turner?" He stammered, "Yes." She calmly told him that she was there to take him home. At this point, Cole was almost completely checked out. He had seen things he could not wrap his mind around, and he was pretty sure that this woman was about to kill him. He tried getting some information from her, but she just told him to stop asking questions. After another unknown duration of time, she eventually took him to a private room with a white-haired man sitting at a table. Cole sat across from him. The man asked Cole if he knew why he was there, and of course he knew. He'd witnessed things that he should not have seen. The man asks about his interest and involvement with various conspiracy theory groups online. Cole, realizing he was at the mercy of these unknown people, explained his interest. He was studying how groups, particular situations on the fringe of society, grant a certain susceptibility to influence. The man asked Cole about his experience at the Flat Earth Conference and thereafter. However, Cole was struggling to come to terms with what he had seen. He couldn't even trust his memories. The mysterious man seemed happy to hear this and encouraged him to recount the story from the top. Cole shared exactly what he had experienced after the conference: the film, the plane, and beyond. He shared everything he remembered, despite how crazy it sounded. It was at this point that Cole was expecting the people to kill him for seeing and knowing too much, but the man said he wasn't going to die. The man turned and addressed the woman as Ruby, asking her what she thought of Cole. She replied that he would fit the role. She explained that she was looking for a special individual like him that was knowledgeable and interested in various fringe theories, but not one of the crackpot, tinfoil hat-wearing nutjobs. She also mentions that it was good to have someone that was part of something significant during the 80s. It was at this point that Cole interjected, clearly confused, as to what was going on. The man across the table explained how he was no longer going to work for the FBI anymore. Instead, Cole was going to work for them. Cole struggled to understand what he meant. It was then that the tone shifted. The man's demeanor suddenly changed. He explained that the world really was round, and that with the right tools, he could prove it. But it wasn't the truth because science showed it to be true. The man went on to explain that what Cole had seen at the end of the world was only a figment of another kind of truth taking hold. Immediately, Cole was reminded of his research from the past and asked if it was simply a tulpa, a spiritual concept for a manifestation that originates from a mental thought. The man mocked Cole for bringing up the spiritual terminology. And Cole, thinking he didn't understand him, explained the concept further, that a tulpa is a thought form, a belief given a body. The man retorted that he knew what it was. He also said that Cole was partially right. He was just wrong about the scale of the concept. The man leaned forward and in a serious and solemn tone said, "I'm going to tell you the secret. The big secret that you've known your entire life. The more people believe in something, the more true that thing becomes. The more reality tips in the favor of that belief." The man went on to explain that Cole's experience in Antarctica was simply the product of what had manifested from the amount of people believing that it was the truth. If those people had managed to bring back verifiable proof of that manifestation to share with the world and our reality would change completely. The moon landing would be a hoax. Every government, every airline, every communications corporation, they would all have been in on it from the beginning. And the world would retroactively have always been flat. And the people would rise up in fury, having been lied to for decades. It was for these reasons that this man's organization existed. It was their responsibility to make sure that conspiracy theories stay conspiracy theories. The man suddenly considered this meeting over. He abruptly stood up and signified to the woman that it was time to go. He looked to Cole and told him that he was now a part of this organization. As the two were turning around towards the door, he tells Cole that he is to report and answer to Ruby now. Cole jumped up, explaining that he had so many questions. Quickly running through his mind, he wanted to know two things. Who was the woman in red with no eyes? And why did they think Ruby worked for something called Black Hat? The man brushed off Cole's request for information, insisting his questions will be answered in time. In a frustrated plea for understanding, Cole explains that he doesn't even know for whom he'll be working. As Ruby and the man walk towards the door of the room, the man looked back and chuckles as he says, "I guess I skipped that part, didn't I? My name is Lee Harvey Oswald. Welcome to the Department of Truth."
Easily the only comic I've really gotten into over the past, lifetime. Really, obviously, it was the concept that drew me in. I hadn't seen this video in a while, and I wanted to share it with you guys. It's easily one of my favorite stories and concepts in general. Just the idea that a belief makes something more true. And I think that there are a lot of pieces of evidence that point towards that being the case. I'm not too sure if the collective consciousness impacts it, but I suppose to a certain degree that does impact it as well. Another thing that is fascinating to me is the concept of these hidden agencies that work covertly to steer society and humanity in a specific direction. Whether it's for the good or bad is going to be obviously very subjective, but nevertheless, the concept is super appealing because I don't want to say it almost has to be the case in reality, but it would make so much sense with how much is unaccounted for in our reality and in our society and our world at large, and with how many coincidences there are. It really makes sense to my limited mind and perception that there would be hidden agencies of some kind, or even maybe just people that are working behind the scenes to, puppeteer the world. I don't know if it's exactly as, fully exaggerated as this, Illuminati style. But I mean, obviously there are agencies that, do have hidden or closed door meetings. I don't even say the words. You all know them. I'm sure you all do. Nevertheless, I just wanted to share this little story with you guys real quick.